Good morning. Good morning. If you are joining me live, then you can drop the comment live. If you are joining me on a replay, you can drop the comment replay. Thank you so much for joining me, however, you are joining me, and wherever you are joining me. If you are seeing me on a Facebook business page or on a YouTube channel, you can come join us on the free group. We are here to support busy moms to find your energy, your ideal weight, and to crush the cravings. Imagine if you could do all of that in an easy way without calorie counting, without counting macros, without feeling hungry and deprived. That's what we're doing. But we're also doing it with encouragement and self care because that is a really important piece of it as well. So, if you would like to join us in the free group, just look in the notes and follow the links over to our group and we'll see you over there. So today, I wanted to talk about falling back into the sugar trap. So there are so many different things, and they tend to start. There's all these different sugar based holidays that tend to start in the fall, in October with Halloween, and then they go through November with Thanksgiving if you're in the US, and then also December with all of the holiday stuff. January, you get a little break. And then in February, there's Valentine's Day, there's more excuse for sugar. And then, of course, we come to Easter and then the Easter basket. So it's like this whole 6 month time frame that are the sugar holidays that I like to call them, that it's easy, you can sort of justify. And so for a lot of people, they kind of fall back into the sugar habit. And so one of the things that we do in the group is that we are focused on eating for blood sugar balance. And when you're, excuse me, eating for blood sugar balance, you it really helps to kind of tamp down the cravings, and it gives you all of these other benefits as well in terms of having more energy and in terms of finding your weight loss is a lot easier. Your weight management is a lot easier. So many good things, right? So let's talk about how we outsmart the Easter Bunny. So, one of the things I know one of the people in my group is doing is to just avoid buying certain things and having certain things in the house. So, if you are the person who controls what goes in the Easter basket, you can do that. And so many of you may have already gotten an Easter basket, but later on today, I will post some things that I'm putting in my kids' baskets, even though they're older. I still do usually get a basket for them. There's no candy of any kind in the baskets for them. I think it's fine if you do put that in there. It's, you know your family and what's going to be best for you, but I know my son doesn't love it at all. And and I've had some other things for my daughter as well. So, but let's talk about what happens if the basket does show up. So, your kids go to an in-law's house, or you go to an in-law's house, or you go to family's house, or whatever, and then a basket does come home with lots of sugary things, or your spouse buys lots of sugary things and you're trying to avoid that. You're trying to, get back on track. This is one of those holidays where a lot of times people get sucked back in. So you're doing so well, and then something stressful happens, life happens, and then you kind of get sucked back into the sugar and where you were before. So let's talk about it. So the first thing, there's a couple of tips for you. One is awareness is so, so key. So autopilot is when this happens. So I just really want to reinforce once again that it all comes back to awareness. And the autopilot is what causes us to kind of fall back into this and not even see it happening. So the more you can be kind of aware of it, the better. Now, we cannot be aware 100% of the time, right? Or we would not function. Imagine if you had to, proactively take a breath in, take a breath out all the time. You wouldn't be able to do anything else. So we can't be aware the whole time, but you can be aware. If you're aware from the start, you have a leg up. So, what I mean by that is if you are aware and you see it coming now, then you have kind of a leg up on it. Then when Sunday comes and Easter comes, if that's what you celebrate, then you will kind of be already on high alert for that. So kind of be on high alert for that. Number 2 is to kind of be aware of what the impacts of it are. So if you educate yourself on what it does in your body, sometimes that's enough for people to be like, "Yeah, I don't really think I wanna go down that road." Now for some people, that really isn't a motivator because you're like, "Well, there are plenty of things that I do that probably don't have the best effects or that may have some risk associated with them, and I do them anyway." So that may or may not be a motivator for you. But there you do probably know what your biggest triggers are, and those you can avoid. So if you can proactively avoid those. So one of the things is just to kind of decide in advance. So you can decide in advance what you're going to have. So, for example, maybe you just decide that this year you're not going to have any of it and you're going to treat yourself in some other way uh, instead. So, if you decide now, it makes it so much easier to stay on track with that. So, maybe now you'd wanna be careful of this because you don't wanna just substitute some other addiction for your sugar addiction, but for some people, I am going to go, get a new shirt or get a new dress, or I am going to go get my nails done, or something that feels like a treat that you're gonna do for yourself instead. There might be other things that you can do to replace the serotonin that often draws people to the sugar as well. So maybe you make a date with a friend, maybe you go walking with someone. So kind of plan some of those things in your calendar now if you can for that day, because those will be helpful for you. To getting outside, and even if it's not sunny, because it's not always sunny everywhere at this time of year, but just getting outside, right? And then also just staying grounded in your experience, the awareness of the experience. So the easiest thing I found is if you know it's going to be an issue for you, is to just decide now not to have it. And I know you may be disappointed because maybe already you've been looking forward to it, or maybe you've already, because the stuff is out, so maybe you've already had some of it. That's fine. That's totally fine. You can do that. But you can also be aware of the experience of it. So, and what I mean by that is when you have it, you can be aware of and I have to go in a minute, but you can be aware of how it is in your body and how it's feeling. So just make sure that you check in with how it really is. So it may be enjoyable for a few seconds, but then you can notice quickly that you kind of are pulled back in before probably you're even done swallowing the candy. You're already pulled back into it. And maybe it doesn't even feel that good a few seconds later. So if you can create that feedback loop in your mind of, okay, it was good for a few seconds. I have all this downstream issue of inflammation it's creating, that can be helpful for you to kind of avoid that. And to also just make the decision in advance, to outsmart those things. Also, get rid of it as soon as you can. You don't need to necessarily have it hanging around, and just have a plan for yourself. So I'd love to know if this is an issue for you and what your plan is this weekend to not get derailed. Because for some, moderation is really hard. For some people are able to moderate and it actually helps them. They actually find that they binge less if they have a little bit. But for some people, that little bit leads them to more, to more, to more. So you have to know what your personality is and how that's going to affect you. So I'd love to know what is your plan, but those are a few things that you can do now for it. Is stay aware, make your decision now, be aware that it's good for a couple of seconds, but then what? So have a plan for yourself, and then also get rid of it as soon as you can. Number 4, or maybe just don't even have it come in. And also number 6, just educate yourself about what it's doing in your body. Because for some people, that's the motivating factor. And you can find that in the group. If you Google, I think it's sugar impacts or something like that, then, or ways sugar impacts your health. There's lots of different things. And so for some people, that's the motivating factor. So it's important to know what works for you. So I'd love to hear what will work for you. I'll talk to you later.